If you just started a fence company and you're wondering how to get established as quickly as possible, if so, stay tuned for 3 tips that are pretty much guaranteed to get you where you need to go in the matter of weeks instead of months or years. So like the intro video said, basically there is 3 things that you must do as a company to get going as quickly as possible. So a little background, if you haven't seen my intro video, started in 2015. Basically 2015 and 16, it was more or less a hobby for me. Just was doing it as a side income. And then really 2017 is when I decided to take this full time and become more serious. So in the matter of, with 2017, I was able to go from doing roughly to about 50 installations a year. 2017, when I became serious, was able to do about 350 full-size installations. So to give you some kind of background, in my area, I'm in the Philadelphia area. Basically, if you drive 10 to 15 miles from my location, you're going to find at least 7 fence companies in the area. So the competition is high. There's tons of people out there. We have a few businesses, actually several. There's one that's been in business for 50 years, one that's been in 30, and then there's several that have been around for 10 and 15 years. So for someone like me to come up out of nowhere and do about 350 installations in the matter of a year, it speaks volumes on what I'm about to tell you. This is not rocket science. It's very simple, and we're just going to get straight to the point. So step number 1, you need to have reviews. You know, years ago, people or businesses, they actually did what they were supposed to do. They actually answered the phone. They actually showed up. They actually did what they said they were going to do. But now what happens is no one does any of that. Everyone does the bare minimum. They don't show up. They don't call. They don't do anything, which is really good for you. But what the customer needs now, before they even think about calling you, is they need some kind of social proof that you are a decent business, you're going to show up, you're not going to steal their money, you know, those kinds of things. So what you need to do is you need to get reviews online. So there's tons of different avenues. You have Google, you have Facebook, you have Yelp, you have Angie's List. In my opinion, what I focused solely on was Google. What I found was that when you know, when people go onto my website and they end up contacting us, we always find out how they found out about us, and it's always Google. Not always, but I'd say about 90% of the time. So what you want to do is any customers that you have had that you had a great experience with, you want to reach out to them and say, you know, hey, you know, I'm glad we had a great experience. We're just starting out. It would be really helpful if you would write a review for me. If not, no big deal. But if you can, you know, spare the 3 minutes, I'd really appreciate it. And then what you want to do is to make their life easier, because the easier you make it for them, the more likely they're actually going to do what you ask, is you want to send them a link to your Google business. Now, this is assuming that you already are listed on Google. If you're not listed on Google, there's going to be a link somewhere in this area. Hopefully, if not, it'll be in the description. And that'll show you how to set up Google My Business and all that kind of good stuff. What I also did is, before anyone else wrote a review, or actually while I was waiting for them to write the reviews for me, I wrote my own review. What I simply did is I used my own Google account, and then when I posted, I said, hey, my name is Joe. I'm the owner of Deptford Fence. You know, just starting out, waiting for people to send in the reviews. But in the meantime, you know, if you're looking to get a fence, please consider me. You know, I'm hands-on. I'm there for every job, blah, blah, blah. And that actually works out quite well. Just because of that one review that I put on Google, I was able to generate a few jobs from that. The few jobs generated word of mouth, generated reviews, and, you know, here I am. So there's step number 1. Step number 2, you need to start advertising, obviously. the way to advertise, and you know, like me, when you're first starting out, you have no money. So what I did in the very beginning is I used Craigslist. So I know what you're thinking. Craigslist, you're thinking Craigslist Killers, you know, bottom of the barrel, price shopper, you name it. You're thinking about all these excuses. Now, what if I was to tell you that on average, I book about 10 to 20 jobs a year from it? And honestly, I don't even use it as much as I used to. And, you know, 10 to 20 jobs a year, full-size jobs, not just repair jobs. That's not included in these figures. And then, you know, if you're looking at anywhere from $750 to $1,000 in profit per full job, I was making anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 a year from posting on Craigslist. Now, Craigslist has changed a little bit. They do charge you to post on there now if you post in the service section. And it's a really good thing now for you. And the reason why it's a good thing that they're charging is that not as many people use it. And in my area, what I found is when it was free, there would probably be anywhere from 10 to 20 posts a day. So what that means is every day I had to make sure I was posting to make sure I was at the top of the list. If you're not at the top of the list, then it's the same as like your Google search results. You need to be at the top. If not, like if you're number 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, people are going to be way less likely to click on you. You know, they always say like the top result accounts for 50% of the clicks. Then, you know, the second one is just say 10 and, you know, so forth and so on. Oh, also, not as important now because not as many posts, but it still is important that you want to make sure you're doing all your keywords. And by that, what I mean is you have basically, just say you do vinyl fencing. Not everyone calls it vinyl fencing. Some people call it plastic and some people call it PVC. You have to make sure those keywords are in there. Now, what most people do when you're searching ads and whatnot is, you know, you have your ad up here, you have your pictures, make sure you're posting pictures. You know, the better the pictures, the better you're going to end up performing. And then, you know, after the pictures, after your ad, then at the bottom, you'll see people put like, please ignore this or something to that effect. And it's basically all the keywords. So down there, you would type in vinyl, PVC, plastic for the vinyl section, and then also if you're doing chain link for our area, most people call it chain link, and then but some people do call it cyclone fencing. Now, if you're in a more rural area and you do a lot of like split rail, make sure it depends what your area calls it. So if they call it horse fencing, make sure you put horse fencing in your description. I know it sounds like common sense, but if you don't type in horse fencing, you're not going to show up in the search results for them. So then your $5, not that it's a lot of money, but you're not getting that customer's attention. Okay, so you have that. So that is step number 2. Between step number 1, step number 2, you can get this done in a day, and this will make dramatic results. Third step, you need a website. This is not from, you know, this isn't 10 and 20 years ago where, you know, websites are optional. Websites are not optional. You need a website. You need a nice looking website. Now, there's 2 ways you can go about this. And basically, it depends on what type of person are you. Are you more, you know, are you good at, are you good at making websites? Have you ever made a website? If you've never made a website, you don't want to ever make a website, you don't think you have time to make a website, then you need to go with one of the pre-made ones. And by pre-made, I'm talking about something like Squarespace, something like Wix, something to that effect. Now, in the matter of, it's going to take you about a solid weekend, but, and again, it's worth it. You know, in a weekend, you can make your own website. Again, in the beginning, you don't have extra money to spend and pay someone to do the website for you. So that's where, you know, you want to use something like Squarespace or Wix or something to that effect. Me personally, when I first started, I did use Squarespace, and the reason for that is 2 things. One, you know, I tried a lot of different ones, and they all give you like 30-day free trials and all that kind of stuff, or they have like a free version if it has like a watermark or something like that. And so what I end up doing is I tried all the different ones, and Squarespace was the easiest one for me to use. or one of the easiest. But the one thing that really drew me is that you have the templates they have are awesome. They're really nice, nicely done, super professional, and again, it is very easy to modify these things. You know, you change out pictures, change your words, put in company information, blah, 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 good to go. Now, do I still use Squarespace and Wix and those pre-made websites? No. The reason for that is I needed a little bit more control over it. I wanted a little bit more of the tracking as well through like Google Analytics and that kind of stuff. And there's different things that you can do with WordPress, and if I didn't mention WordPress, that's what I currently use now. So WordPress, it does give you those options. There definitely is more work to be done with that. There is a little bit more of a learning curve, but again, like anything else, they do have pre-made templates that you can buy, or there's free ones as well that I've used that are perfectly acceptable. But you just need to make sure you're finding something that is nice looking. So with that, again, you have Squarespace and Wix, and there's tons of other ones now. I'm just looking back what I did like 4 years ago. Like anything else, there's a million companies now. So there's that. And then also, once you have a little bit more time, or you've made websites before and you're already comfortable with WordPress, go for WordPress. It's a great system. It's constantly being updated, and like I said, there's a lot of different tracking. And then they also have a lot of tools for like SEO and like that kind of stuff. And if you don't know what SEO is, then stay tuned for other videos. This is an early video. Obviously, I'm taping this thing in the car while I'm driving to a quote. But in the future, I'll have videos made up for SEO and that kind of stuff. I'll put that link in the description, or I'll do something like in this area. But that's when I get a chance to do that. So that's all I have for today. So like I said, very simple, 3 steps: reviews, Craigslist, website. As long as you get those 3 things going, that's really the only things I used in the very beginning as far as my advertising in the very early stages before I really started spending a ton of money on different forms of advertising and that kind of stuff. But if you get that going, you'll be set for the year. If you guys have any questions or comments, please put them below. I'd be happy to answer anything that you have. If there's any topics that you would like me to cover, please put that in there as well.